गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुसाक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः। श्रीमद्भगवद्गीता सप्तदशोऽध्यायः। श्रद्धात्रयविभागयोगो नाम। अर्जुन उवाच ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण सत्त्वमाहोरजस्तमः। श्रीभगवानुवाच त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा देहिनां सा स्वभावजा सात्विकी राजसी चैव तामसी चेति तां शृणु। सत्त्वानुरूपा सर्वस्य श्रद्धा भवति भारत। श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषो यो यच्छ्रद्धः स एव सः। यजन्ते सात्विका देव्या यजन्ते सात्विका देव्यान्य अक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः प्रेतान् भूतगणांश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः। अशास्त्रविहितं घोरं तप्यन्ते ये तपो जनाः दम्भाहंकारसंयुक्ता कामरागबलान्विताः कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्राममचेतसः मां चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्। आहारस्त्वपि सर्वस्य त्रिविधो भवति प्रियः यज्ञस्तपस्तथा दानं तेषां भेदमिमं शृणु। आयुः सत्त्वबलारोग्य सुखप्रीतिविवर्धनाः रस्या स्निग्धा स्थिरा हृद्या आहाराः सात्विकप्रियाः कट्वं ललवणात्युत् उष्णतीक्ष्णरुक्षविदाहिनः आहारा राजसस्येष्टा दुःखशोकामयप्रदाः। ॐ तत्सत्। सर्वं श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु। Should I read from Arjuna's question, the second verse? Kindly guide me. From where should I begin? I think the person is permeated by Shraddha. That's what we had decided yesterday. I just read the third verse. सत्त्वानुरूपा सर्वस्य श्रद्धा भवति भारत श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषो यो यच्छ्रद्धा स एव सः. O descendant of Bharata, Arjuna, Shraddha of everyone is in keeping with his mind. Who is permeated by Shraddha, whatever is his Shraddha, he conforms to that Shraddha. Kindly let me know if my voice is breaking, then someone else can help in reading. The person is permeated by his Shraddha. Though Shraddha is commonly translated as faith, since it is so much more than that, as we have seen, let us leave it untranslated. Sattva here is not the guna, but the antahkarana, the mind. A person's Shraddha is sattvanurupa, that is, according to the disposition of his mind, its tendencies and value structure. It assumes a form in keeping with the type of mind you have. And it can be changed, for the mind means thinking. And once your thinking is changed, everything is changed. The cognitive change will bring about a change in your attitude, and that will have an impact on your Shraddha. The tendencies and understanding you have all determine the type of Shraddha you have. A person is permeated by his Shraddha. Purushah Shraddha Mayah. Whatever type of Shraddha he has, that is exactly what he is. Here, the suffix mayat in the word Shraddha Maya is in the sense of prachurya, saturation. The person is nothing but an expression of his Shraddha. Shankara makes it clear that Purusha here is the individual, the samsari jiva, and not Atma. Whatever a person's Shraddha is, that is what he is. If his Shraddha is Satvika, he will be Satvika, and so on. All his activities, his whole life will be a manifestation of his Shraddha. Forget the term Shraddha for the time being and just think about what determines the expression of one's life. It is going to be in terms of one's value structure and priorities. Suppose you ask someone to go to a movie and he says he has no time because he has to play bridge. The priorities are clear. One is more important for him than the other. Another person may go with you and another may not because he is going to the ashrama. I see this all the time when I give public talks. If they are for 3 nights, I will never get the same people the second night, even though I deliberately leave them with a cliffhanger. There is no way you can figure out the topic I'm going to unfold, and yet they do not come the next night. Why? Priorities. Some other engagement was more important, a dinner, a concert, etc. Even if God were to come, he would have to wait for one more day. A person is nothing but his priorities. That is why you have to understand how important it is. The whole change takes place only when the priorities change. That rearrangement as to which is more important, which is less important, really brings the change in the person that sets him in new direction. Again, there is a breaking of voice. I repeat, the whole change takes place only when the priorities change. That rearrangement as to which is more important, which is less important, really brings about the change in the person that sets him in new direction. That prioritizing of values and pursuits indicates the type of thinking a person has, the type of shraddha he has. And therefore, Bhagwan makes a sweeping statement here which is applicable to any person anywhere. Whatever is a person's shraddha, he is indeed the personification of that shraddha. That is, he conforms to that shraddha. Yo yat shraddha sa eva saha. So it is your shraddha which describes you, your vichara, your attitude. They all depend upon your shraddha. If they are sattvika, you will be having sattvika shraddha. And it all depends on your priorities in life. Ishvara is your priority or the material world. So your choice makes it clear the kind of shraddha you have. Just let me know if you want me to repeat anything or share anything. यजन्ते सात्विका देवान् यक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः प्रेतान् भूतगणांश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः सात्विकाः जनाः. The Satvika people, Devan, the Devas, Yajante, worship, Rajasaha, the Rajasika people, Yaksha Rakshamsi, the Yaksha and Rakshasas, Anye and others, Tamasaha, the Tamasika people, Pretan, ghosts, Bhutaganancha and the Bhutaganas, Yajante, worship. सात्विकाः जनाः देवान् यजन्ते राजसाः यक्षरक्षांसि अन्ये तामसाः प्रेतान् भूतगणान् च यजन्ते. The Satvika people worship the Devas. The Rajasika people worship the Yaksha Rakshasas. And the other Tamasic people worship ghosts and Bhutaganas. Threefold Shraddha, Satvika, Rajasika and Tamasika. From different standpoints, we can see what kind of Shraddha a person has, whether Sattva, Rajas or Tamas. One way of determining this is by the deities he worships. If he worships the Devas like Indra, Varuna, and Agni, who are mentioned in the Vedas, or Brahma, Vishnu, or Shiva, his Shraddha is Sattvika. Then there are those who worship a Yaksha, a certain kind of celestial, or a Rakshasas, a goblin or a spirit. Their worship is considered Rajasika. And those who invoke pretas, ghosts, or harmful spirits to worship have a Shraddha that is Tamasika. A preta is the departed soul of a person who did not follow proper conduct during his life and has to exist in that form for some time before he proceeds. These are the ones worshipped by people who do black magic, and such worship reflects a Shraddha that is Tamasika. In prescribing what is to be done, Vidhi, and what is not to be done, Nisheda, the Veda follows a method of stating a general rule, Utsarga, and negating or qualifying it, Apavada. For example, it is a general rule that no one should hurt another living thing. It says, Himsam na kuryat. But where there is justice involved, Himsa is allowed. Somebody is hanged because he committed a homicide. Thus, there is no rule which does not have an exception, not even the rules of Bhagavan. There are general rules in the Shastra about how the various devas like Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, or Indra, Varuna, Agni, etc. are to be worshipped. I repeat as there is a
Yeah,
breaking
Bela
of voice.
Jayagurdev, I can take over, Bela. I think there is some
Yeah,
internet disturbance that side. No
yeah,
issues.
I can see the
Yeah, no,
notifications.
no problem.
Yeah. You want to continue sharing?
Yeah, I will share screen. It will be easier. So I will just start from here. Threefold Shraddha, Sattvika, Rajasika, and Tamasika. From different standpoints, we can see what kind of Shraddha a person has, whether Sattva, Rajas, or Tamas. One way of determining this is by the deities he worships. If he worships the Devas like Indra, Varuna, and Agni, who are mentioned in the Vedas, or Brahma, Vishnu, or Shiva, his Shraddha is Sattvika. Then there are those who worship a Yaksha, a certain kind of celestial, or a Rakshas, a goblin or a spirit. Their worship is considered Rajasika. And those who invoke pretas, ghosts, or harmful spirits to worship have a Shraddha that is Tamasika. A preta is the departed soul of a person who did not follow proper conduct during his life and has to exist in that form for some time before he proceeds. These are the ones worshipped by people who do black magic, and such worship reflects a Shraddha that is Tamasika. In prescribing what is to be done, Vidhi, and what is not to be done, Nishedha, the Veda follows a method of stating a general rule, Utsarga, and negating or qualifying it, apavada. For example, it is a general rule that no one should hurt another living thing. It says, himsam na kuryat. But where there is justice involved, himsa is allowed. Somebody is hanged because he committed a homicide. Thus, there is no rule which does not have an exception, not even the rules of Bhagavan. There are some general rules in the Shastra about how the various devas like Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, or Indra, Varuna, Agni, etc. are to be worshipped. From this standpoint, a form of worship may or may not be said to be sattvika. But even among who worship the devas, only a rare one is committed to sattva and does a sattvika form of worship, says Shankara. Now, Krishna uses the criterion of the motive of the worship to classify it as sattvika or rajasika or tamasika. Among the many who are committed to the worship of the gods and so on, only some are based in sattva. Of these, some are jignasus, who want only antahkarana shuddhi in order to gain knowledge of their identity with Ishvara as a result of the worship of the devas according to the prescribed vidhi. This kind of worship is surely sattvika. But generally, most people who are committed to the specific results of prayers that are offered to these devatas are generally given to Rajasika or Tamasika worship. Why? Because they seek power and other ignoble ends within samsara through the worship. How? अशास्त्रविहितं घोरं तप्यन्ते ये तपो जनाः दम्भाहङ्कारसंयुक्ताः कामरागबलान्विताः कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्राममचेतसः मां चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्. Ye janah, those people who dambha ahankara samyuktaha, riddled with pretension and egoity, kama raga bala anvitaha, endowed with strong passion and longing, achetasaha, lacking in discrimination, sharirastham bhutagramam, the sense organs obtaining in the body, antah sharirastham mamcha, and me obtaining within the body, eva also, karshayantaha, emaciating, ashastra vihitam, not enjoined by the Shastra, ghoram, terrible, tapas, religious disciplines, tapyante, perform, tan vidhi, know them to be asura nishchayan, of asura conviction. ये जनाः दम्भ अहंकार संयुक्ताः काम राग बल अन्विताः अचेतसः शरीरस्थं भूतग्रामम् अन्तः शरीरस्थं मां च एव कर्षयन्तः अशास्त्रविहितं घोरं तपस्तप्यन्ते तान् विद्धि आसुर निश्चयान्. Those people who, riddled with pretension and egoity, endowed with strong passion and longing, and lacking in discrimination, perform terrible religious disciplines not enjoined by the Shastra, emaciating the sense organs, obtaining in the body, and me too, who obtains within the body, may you know them to be of Asura conviction. These two verses have to be read together to form a complete sentence. Tapas here is religious worship that may consist of prayers, rituals, etc. The tapas that these people do is not enjoined by the Shastra, a Shastra Vihitam, and it is Ghora, afflicting one's own body, mind, sense complex. Not only that, when such people worship, others are also afflicted. Many animals may die, as on Thanksgiving. Just because you want to give thanks to the Lord, so many turkeys have to die. First, you call them dull, then you kill them and eat them. If they are so dull and foolish, why do you eat them? How intelligent does that make you? They have as much reason to live as you do. When some wrong thinking people become religious, a lot of others suffer. They afflict themselves and bring affliction to others. These people who do tapas, that is not enjoined by the Shastra, are riddled with pretension and egoity. Dambha ahankara samyuktaha. Their religious activities are meant to declare to the world that they are religious. This is dambha. And it is also for the sake of ahankara, pride, egoity. And they are endowed with a very strong longing, kama raga bala anvitaha. A general want is called kama. If raga, attachment, is there, it becomes longing. Or kama can be taken as passion and raga as longing. Out of the sheer force of kama and raga, passion as well as longing, they perform these various rituals, etc. Any tapas implies a certain self affliction, a certain self discipline. But the motive determines the nature of the tapas. When Ravana did tapas, there was certainly a lot of self affliction, but it was not for mental purity, antahkarana shuddhi, or mental steadiness, antahkarana naishchalya, for the sake of moksha. He wanted power to destroy. Similarly, Hiranyakashipu gained a boon by his great tapas that nobody would be able to destroy him during the day or in the night, either inside the house or outside, either on the earth or in the space. Nor would he die by any animal or a human being or any weapon. He thought he had covered everything. But because no one can escape death, the Lord came with a lion's head and a human body, neither animal nor human, at twilight, neither day nor night, and placed him on his lap, neither on the earth nor in space, on the threshold of the house, neither inside nor outside, and killed him with his claws, not a weapon. In every rule, there is a loophole, always. People like Ravana and Hiranyakashipu do formidable tapas out of the drive of ambition and lust. Kama raga bala anvitaha. When the tapas is so difficult and the results are ultimately so disastrous, why do they do it? They are achetasaha. They do not think properly. Lacking discrimination, they emaciate themselves by not feeding the sense organs, their sense objects, out of sheer will. Where do they get the will? They are driven by karma and by raga. I always admire the will of a person who contests the nomination for the presidency of the United States and keeps that will going. That is not an ordinary thing. To do the amount of work required, even to be nominated, he must be driven by a great ambition. Otherwise, It is impossible. Denying the group of sense organs all experiences, they do great tapas. A sattvika person also denies feeding the sense organs, lives a disciplined life, and does his meditation or prayers. The difference is the sattvika person wants nothing but moksha, while the other one is driven. One has viveka, the other does not. Even among those who are not seeking moksha, there are two types of samsaris: those who have simple ambitions and those who are driven by kama, raga, ahankara, highly ambitious people. They are not just ordinary samsaris, they are driven. Just 1 second. And among them, there are shades of difference. Some are legitimately making efforts, and others, the asuras, do not follow any rules. Anything convenient will do because they lack viveka. All of them undergo severe privations to achieve their ends. I will just read this last part one more time. So, denying the group of sense organs all experiences, they do great tapas. A sattvika person also denies feeding the sense organs, lives a disciplined life, and does his meditation or prayers. The difference is the sattvika person wants nothing but moksha, while the other one is driven. One has viveka, the other does not. Even among those who are not seeking moksha, there are two types of samsaris: those who have simple ambitions and those who are driven by kama, raga, ahankara, highly ambitious people. They are not just ordinary samsaris, they are driven. And among them, there are shades of differences. Some are legitimately making efforts, and others, the asuras, do not follow any rules. Anything convenient will do because they lack viveka. All of them undergo severe privations to achieve their ends. So here we have the Sattvika people. Ultimately, it is the motive behind the prayer or the tapas that determines whether one is Sattvika, Rajasika, or Tamasika. So when that is the case, Sattvika people, they want only Antakarna Shuddhi or Antakarna Naischalya. They only want moksha. That sets them apart. Whereas those that are riddled with ambition, kama, raga, and bala, anvitaha, they also they pursue this because of their passion, because of their ambition. That makes them rajasika. And among them, there are people who are driven by simple ambition, those who are driven by strong ambition, strong, highly ambitious people. And among those, also, there are two types. One, who follow rules and who follow legitimate means to achieve their ends. And then there's another subset that do not follow rules. Only convenience matters. So the means doesn't matter to them. They will get the end no matter what the means they follow. So that is the Asuri Gunas. Why? Because they lack viveka. Not only do they afflict the body and sense organs, Lord Krishna says, they are afflicting me, who obtains in the body. Mam cha antah sharirastham karshayantaha. In the form of the witness obtaining in the body, Lord Narayana, as the Atma, is observing all that is going on. How can they afflict Atma, which is not an object, karma of anybody's action? We have seen that Atma is not destroyed even when the body is destroyed. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. How can anyone do anything to the Atma? It is purely a figure of speech. So, how do they afflict Bhagavan? Shankara says, it is nothing but not following what is to be done according to the mandate, Anushasana of Bhagavan. Not conforming to dharma and adharma is afflicting Bhagavan. And in that sense, Krishna says they are afflicting me. These people are to be understood as those whose conclusions and convictions are asura. Therefore, they are called asura nishchayas. Asuraha nishchayah esham te asura nishchayah. I, that is Swamiji, do not want to translate asura as demonic because you have your own concept of demons, which does not exactly fit the description of an asura. And I won't use the word evil because there is no such thing as evil. An asura is driven by wrong thinking or lack of right thinking. There are a lot of people who lack the capacity to think and are harmless. But an asura has wrong thinking and is driven also. Why should Bhagavan say, may you understand Vidhi here? Why should we know this? Shankara says, it is because any trace of that type of thinking and behavior, if it is present in us, has to be negated. For that purpose, it is said here that one should know the Asura Nishchaya. So, what is the Asura Nishchaya? It is wrong thinking and lack of right thinking. There are a lot of people who lack the capacity to think and they are harmless. So that set is not as dangerous as the asura think as the asura guna, which not only do they think wrong, they also they're also driven by that kama raga bala anvitaha. And therefore Bhagavan says, Vidhi, know this, may you understand this. Why? Because any trace of that type of thinking or behavior has to be negated. Not only is the expression of Shraddha threefold, even the food you like, the rituals you perform, religious disciplines that you practice, and charity can be threefold in nature: Satvika, Rajasika, and Tamasika. The latter two are told in order to avoid them and cultivate the Satvika quality. Some of them can be practiced, and like a quality, some of them have to be understood and lived up to. There are three types of food: Satvika, Rajasika, and Tamasika. And your preference for them is determined by the predominance of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas in your disposition. Some people love things like blue cheese, and others will not go near them. People like different types of food. But here, we are not simply categorizing different types of food. Two of them are to be avoided. The hope is that if your food is more sattvika, that will perhaps help you think properly. There is no absolute correlation here because you may be an eater of sattvika food and also be very cruel. Godse was a Vaishnava Brahmana, a great vegetarian, and he shot Gandhiji. It is silly to think that if you are a vegetarian, your thinking will be wonderful. It is not true. But on the other hand, the food that is eaten does affect the mind. We have to understand this relatively, not absolutely. Otherwise, you will simply condemn some people based on what they eat, and this has no validity. I have seen people who are non vegetarian and at the same time contemplative, but generally, one has a degree of insensitivity when one eats things that want to live, things that have legs in order to run away from you. The day an eggplant develops legs and horns and a pumpkin develops feet, we have to consider whether we should eat a pumpkin or a goat. This is mentioned here because for a seeker, a person who is serious about his antahkarana shuddhi, it is necessary to have a sensitivity about all his actions, including his choice of food. Similarly, performing rituals, religious disciplines, and charity can be purely sattvika, rajasika, or tamasika. The Gita spends so much time on this kind of division just so that we can follow the sattva and avoid the other two. Let me know if you want any repeat of any paragraph. So I will just read this paragraph. Not only is the expression of Shraddha threefold, even the food you like, the rituals you perform, religious disciplines that you practice, and charity can be threefold in nature: sattvika, rajasika, and tamasika. The latter two are told in order to avoid them and cultivate the sattvika quality. Some of them can be practiced, and like a quality, some of them have to be understood and lived up to. So, the reason why Bhagwan is enumerating all of this is so that we understand what is not to be done and what is to be followed, what is to be negated, even if there is a trace amount of um, Rajasika or Tamasika aspects in us, in our thinking, that has to be negated. Why? In order to get the Antakarana Shuddhi and the Naischalya required to attain that knowledge for moksha. And here, very clearly, Swamiji is cautioning us with respect to food. While it is important to be sattvic, to be vegetarian, just by being vegetarian, you do not become uh, sattvika. Your mental disposition, you might still be cruel. So it is, therefore, it's not an absolute correlation. You still have to work on your mind. And then there are people who are non-vegetarians but are very contemplative. So it is also not right to judge and label people. Although it is generally, it is good to have that sensitivity towards not eating things that have legs, that want to run away from you. That is the reason why the Gita spends so much time on this kind of division, so that we can follow the sattva and avoid the other two. आहारस्त्वपि सर्वस्य त्रिविधो भवति प्रियः यज्ञस्तपस्तथा दानं तेषां भेदमिमं शृणु. Tu api, and also sarvasya, for everyone, priyaha, that is liked, aharaha, food, trividaha, threefold, bhavati, is, tatha, so too, yajnaha, ritual, tapas, religious discipline, danam, charity, tesham, of them, imam bhedam, this difference, shrunu, listen. तु अपि सर्वस्य प्रियः आहारः त्रिविधः भवति तथा यज्ञः तपस् दानं तेषाम् इमं भेदं शृणु. And also for everyone, the food that is like is threefold. So too are ritual, religious discipline, and charity. Listen to this difference of theirs. The word tu is used to distinguish this topic from the previous topic of Shraddha. Like Shraddha, other things are also threefold. A few of them are mentioned here. Ahara means what is taken in, eaten. Ahriyate iti ahara. It can even refer to the sense objects because they're all taken by the senses. But here, ahara means food, what is eaten or drunk by you. For everyone, sarvasya, food is threefold. Ahara trividha. How is it in terms of nutritional value? Should everyone take threefold food like protein, carbohydrate, and fat in a certain proportion? Or should we take a little bit of sattvika food, a little bit of rajasika food, and tamasika food? Is it not? It is not threefold in these senses, but terms of guna. And it is so according to what is liked, priya, by people. Listen to this difference among them. Tesham bhedah imam shrunu. Saying so, Bhagwan enumerates them. So, it is not threefold in these senses, not in the sense that you should have a little sattvika, a little rajasika, or a little tamasika. It is in terms of guna. And it is also according to what is liked, priya, by people. आयुस्सत्त्वबलारोग्य सुखप्रीतिविवर्धनाः रस्याः स्निग्धा स्थिरा हृद्या आहाराः सात्विकप्रियाः. आयुः सत्त्वबलारोग्य सुखप्रीतिविवर्धनाः. Those which increase longevity, mental clarity, strength, health, pleasure and taste, aesthetic pleasure. Rasyaha, succulent. Snigdhaha, oily. Sthiraha, fortifying. Hridyaha, pleasing to the heart. Aharaha are the foods satvika priyaha that are loved by the satvika people. Ayuhu sattva balarogya sukha priti vivardhanaha रस्याः स्निग्धाः स्थिराः हृद्याः आहाराः सात्विकप्रियाः. Succulent, oily, fortifying, and pleasing foods which increase longevity, mental clarity, strength, health, pleasure in taste, and aesthetic pleasure are loved by Sattvika people. Ayuhu is the duration of life, longevity. Sattva is the development of your mind. If you take too much coffee or sugar, you find that it is difficult to have steadiness of mind, chitta ekagrata. So it is clear that food does affect the mind. Whatever you ingest, that contributes to your steadiness of mind, tranquility, and capacity to think, is what is meant here by food that is sattva. Food can also give you strength, bala, and there are things that you eat which are purely healthy, arogya. Then it should also be tasty. It should give you some pleasure, sukha, and it should be aesthetically pleasing, priti vivardhana. Even if you look at some food, it spoils your appetite, though it may be very good for you. Thus, the food that enhances all these is liked by those whose disposition is predominantly sattva. That is, it is sattvika priya. Again, the food that is eaten is divided according to its nature. Some food is rasya, succulent, juicy. Some are snigdha, creamy, oily, and some are sthira. That is, they remain for a long time in the body, like that meant for building bone, etc. All these varieties of food should be pleasing to your mind, hridya. The presentation of the food, how it looks, is very important because the very sight of the food should please you. These are the foods which are considered desirable by Sattvika people. That is, these are Sattvika Priya Aharas. Then, what is Rajasika Ahara? That is mentioned in the next verse. Katvam lalavanatyushna tikshna ruksha vidahinaha ahara rajasasyeshta dukkha shokamaya pradaha. Katu, amla, lavana, ati ukshna, tikshna, ruksha, vidahinaha. Those which are very bitter, very sour, very salty, very hot, very pungent, astringent, and causing inflammation. Dukkha, shoka, amaya, pradaha, that give pain, sorrow, and ill health. Aharaha are foods, rajasasya ishtaha, that are highly desired by Rajasika people. Foods which are very bitter, sour, salty, hot, pungent. Sorry, I didn't read this one more time. Katu, amla, lavana, ati, ukshna, tikshna, ruksha, vidahinaha, dukkha, shoka, amaya, pradaha, aharaha, rajasasya, ishtaha. So foods that are very bitter, sour, salty, hot, pungent, astringent, and burning, that give pain, sorrow, and ill health, are highly desired by Rajasika people. Shankara says that the prefix ati, which intensifies the meaning of the word to which it is added, should be applied to all the words in the compound. Katu, amla, lavana, ukshna, tikshna, ruksha, vidahi. This has to be said because all these things are necessary for all for good health and even prescribed in Ayurveda. But they have to be used in moderation. But a Rajasika person goes to the extreme with these. What is said here is that they are to be avoided in the extreme. Ati katu is what is highly bitter, and ati amla is very sour, like yogurt that is 15 days old. Ati lavana is excessively salty, and ati ushna is so hot you cannot touch it without burning your tongue or shedding tears, like red chilies or jalapeno peppers. Food that is ati tikshna is excessively pungent, and ati ruksha is very astringent. Any burning food that causes inflammation is vidahi. This is all food that is highly desired by Rajasika people, Rajasasya Ishtaha. And these give pain, sorrow, and ill health. Dukkha Shoka Amaya Pradaha. In spite of that, they love to eat that food. Then there is a third type of food, the food that is desired by the Tamasika people. Bhagavan enumerates them in the next verse. यातयामं गतरसं पूतिपर्युषितं च यत् उच्छिष्टमपि चामेध्यं भोजनं तामसप्रियम्. Yatayamam, that which is 3 hours old or inadequately cooked. Gatarasam, that from which the essence has gone. Puti, putrid. Paryushitam, day old. Apicha, and also Uchishtam, leavings. Cha, yat, and which amedhyam, unfit as an offering. Bhojanam is the food tamasa priyam, that is beloved to a tamasika person. Yatayamam gatarasam puti paryushitam apicha uchishtam cha yat amedhyam bhojanam tamasas priyam. Food which is old or inadequately cooked, from which the essence has gone, which is putrid, day old, leavings, and also unfit as an offering, is beloved to a tamasika person. The word yata yama qualifies the food, and it means the food for which one yama has passed. One yama consists of about 4 muhurtas, 48-minute periods, totally amounting to about 3 hours. When there was no refrigeration, cooked food that had been standing for 3 hours in a tropical climate would be teeming with bacteria and is therefore unfit for consumption. Shankara says the word can also mean mandapakwa, mandapakwa, inadequately cooked, because the next word, gatarasam, covers stale food. Here, the word yama will mean the prescribed length of time for which the food has to be cooked, and that is not observed, therefore, the food is called yata yama. Food that is gata rasa has lost the taste, essence it once had, and therefore its nutritive value. And usually, the stale food has lost all its nutritive value. But even though not stale, white rice is useless. It is gata rasa because its capacity to nourish is gone in the process of polishing it has undergone. Puti is foul smelling, and Paryushita, Shankara says, is cooked food that has been kept overnight, yesterday's leftovers. It includes all fermented things which are sometimes used as medicine, as kashaya, but are not good for you as food. Uchishtam means what is left over after somebody else has eaten. If the food you eat is such leavings, it is uchishta. Then amedhya means food that has not been or cannot be offered to the Lord. Food, bhojana of this sort is beloved to a tamasika person. Tamasa priyam. From this, do not conclude that because somebody is eating food of this sort, he must be tamasika. It is not like that. It can be just a habit. These tamasika foods are mentioned here so that you can avoid them. After mentioning the three types of food, the three types of worship are going to be told now. Let me know if you want a repeat of anything. We have about half an hour. So I would think we'll stop here today. We go through the verses one more time. And there was something that I think Mrinal wanted a repeat of some paragraph yesterday. Not sure what that was. So we started from verse 3. A person is permeated by his Shraddha. Sattvanurupa sarvasya Shraddha bhavati bharata. Shraddha mayoyam purushaha yo yashraddhasa eva saha. O descendant of Bharata, Arjuna, Shraddha of everyone is in keeping with his mind. This person who is permeated by Shraddha, whatever is his Shraddha, he conforms to that Shraddha. So we have seen here that it is not just the faith, it is the antakarana, it is the disposition of the mind, it is the value structure that the person has, and the priorities he or she has, the tendencies of the mind, right?
And it says it can be changed. That is very important, I
That
felt.
is important. Yeah. Is
Yeah.
that what you
And
wanted to repeat
yes,
yesterday?
yes, yes. For the
Okay.
mind, it means thinking, and once your thinking is changed, everything is changed. The
Correct.
cognitive change will bring about change in your attitude and will have impact on your Shraddha. I
Yeah.
felt this is very important.
It's important, isn't
Yeah.
it? So this is again, it is like a mirror to all of us. This whole chapter where we look at ourselves, introspect, and say where what kind of disposition we have. And there, in case you have some Rajasika disposition, you with understanding change it, cultivate a Satvika disposition by a change of habit, a change of thinking, if there is wrong thinking. So all this is very fluid. So uh, a Satvika person may also change into a Rajasika person unless he's alert. So he has to continue being alert and aware. It doesn't become by default. Once he's doing all this, it does not become by default. So anytime, like um, I think in the previous chapters it was said, even when you look at Maya Panchakam, in that is it says just by reading the Vedas and performing rituals, you Maya is so powerful, it can topple you over any time. So even though one is sattvic, you will have to continue to maintain to be sattvika. So that little effort has to be there.
And there was one mention about Satvika prayers ritual, or they do. It is one, even the Satvika people of two kinds. If
Yeah,
isn't it?
that
Some,
was
yeah.
that was the
If you,
samsaric of two types. Yeah, I will go to that one
yeah.
second. यजन्ते सात्विका देवान् यक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः प्रेतान् भूतगणांश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः. The Satvika people worship the Devas, the Rajasika people worship the Yaksha Rakshas, and the other Tamasika people worship ghosts and Bhuta Ganas. So here there are threefold based on who you worship. And then Swamiji goes one step further. Shankara says, he says, it is not just who you worship, with what intention you worship. So there may be Satvika people who are worshipping only for moksha, only for antakarana shuddhi. But then there may be others who are worshipping for some material gain. Like, I'll just read that. Even among who worship the devas, only a rare one is committed to sattva and does a sattvika form of worship. Now, Krishna uses the criterion of the motive of the worship to classify it as sattvika or rajasika. Those of the many who are committed to the worship of the gods, only some are based in sattva. Of these, some are jignasus, who want only antakarana shuddhi in order to gain knowledge of their identity with Ishvara as a result of the worship of devas according to prescribed vidhi. This kind of worship is surely sattvika, but generally, most people who are committed to the specific results of prayers that are offered to these devatas are generally given to Rajasika or Tamasika worship. So they may be worshipping devas, but then it depends on their intention. Like
Yeah. And
you're
they might be Satvika people, but their intention may not be Satvika right
Satvika.
now
Yeah,
at this point. Yeah.
yeah. It is with some karma in mind. Kamya karmas, all those come under the Kamya karmas. You're praying to devas, yes, to Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and all Agni and Indra, Varuna, and all of them, yes, but it is with a limited end in mind, which is samsaric. It is not with that pure intention of just having the antakarana shuddhi.
And what is the difference between Bhutaganas and ghosts?
I don't think he's explained in great detail. Basically, all those pretas, he's put all of them in that pretas. They are those. We'll go to that. We'll just read the shlokas and then go there. अशास्त्रविहितं घोरं तप्यन्ते ये तपो जनाः दम्भाहङ्कारसंयुक्ताः कामरागबलान्विताः कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्राममचेतसः मां चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्. Those people who riddled with pretension and egoity, endowed with strong passion and longing, and lacking in discrimination, perform terrible religious disciplines not enjoined by the Shastra, emaciating the sense organs, obtaining in the body, and me too, who obtains within the body, may you know them to be of Asura conviction. So here it is there are three things to understand. One is that what is it driven by? Their worship is driven by Kama Raga Bala Anvitaha. And what do they do and how do they do it? The motive is to get what they desire so strongly. And then the means they use is they put the sense organs to pain. They go to any extent, ghora, and at the same time they uh, they affect also the me, that is mam vanta sharirastham. And here Shankara very beautifully explains, although the Atma is cannot be destroyed, Atma cannot be touched, he gives the explanation of dharma and adharma. So if they are following adharmic means, then it becomes affecting the Atma. And then they do it with that damba ahankara samyuktaha. Given the examples of all these Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha. So they did not want moksha as the end. They wanted their self preservation. They did not want to be destroyed. They wanted to destroy everybody else. They wanted to be all powerful. So we have seen that Atma is not destroyed even when the body is destroyed. So how can anyone do anything to Atma? Shankara says it is nothing but not following what is to be done according to the mandate, Anushasana of Bhagavan. Not conforming to dharma and adharma is afflicting Bhagavan. And in this sense, Krishna says they are afflicting me. So when we follow dharma, you are worshipping Ishvara, you're worshipping Bhagavan. Whereas when you're following adharma, you're afflicting him.
But in any case, we are not afflicting him, no, because it cannot
We are not.
be touched.
We are not.
In
It is
in
only
a way, we are afflicting ourselves, and
correct.
in that sense, we are afflicting him.
Correct.
Mm.
Because here dharma is equivalent to Ishvara, equivalent to Atma, to Bhagavan. So as long as you're following the Anushasana, the mandate as what is to be done, and you're doing it that way, you are worshipping him. The moment you do things which are not to be done, you're doing it the wrong way, adharmic way, then it tantamounts to afflicting him. He is untouched. Of course, he is untouched. But like you rightly said, it will reflect on us, on our disposition. Aharastvapi sarvasya. I don't know, where did the pretas and bhutas come? Did we finish that? No? Yeah. You had asked a question about bhutaganas and the difference between ghosts and
Yeah,
bhut.
it was there in the explanation, those words. But it's okay, it's not very significant. Yeah, Bhutaganacha. Here in the explanation.
Preta is a departed soul of a person who did not follow proper conduct during his life and has to exist in that form for some time before he proceeds. These are the ones worshipped by people who do black magic.
Here in the word meaning they have given two here Bhutaganan is the Bhutaganas. Pretan is given and the
Yeah,
Bhutaganan is differently given. So I thought maybe these are
yeah,
different,
yeah. But I think here it was not
not explained, correct?
explained beyond this.
Mm.
Spirits, basically.
Mm.
Preta or harmful ghosts or harmful spirits.
Maybe the ghosts are the ones who are harmful, and the Bhutaganas may not be. Could be.
Yeah. Basically, those that resort to all this black magic and all of that, they fall under the tamasika. Yeah. आहारस्त्वपि सर्वस्य त्रिविधो भवति प्रियः यज्ञस्तपस्तथा दानं तेषां भेदमिमं शृणु. And also for everyone, the food that is liked is threefold. So too our ritual, religious discipline, and charity. Listen to this difference of theirs. आयुस्सत्त्वबलारोग्य सुखप्रीतिविवर्धनाः रस्या स्निग्धा स्थिरा हृद्या आहारा सात्विकप्रियाः. Succulent, oily, fortifying, and pleasing foods which increase longevity, mental clarity, strength, health, pleasure in taste, and aesthetic pleasure are loved by Satvika people. खट्वं ललवणात्युष्ण तीक्ष्णरूक्ष्यविदाहिनः आहारा राजसस्येष्टा दुःखशोकामयप्रदाः. Foods which are very bitter, sour, salty, hot, pungent, and astringent, and burning that give pain, sorrow, and ill health are highly desired by Rajasika people. यातयामं गतरसं पूतिपर्युषितं च यत् उच्छिष्टमपि चामेध्यं भोजनं तामसप्रियम्. Food which is old or inadequately cooked, from which the essence has gone, which is putrid, day old, leavings, and also unfit as an offering, is beloved to a tamasika person. I think we'll close our eyes and just reflect on all that we have learned and listened to. Jai Gurudev. Let's all share at least one takeaway. We are 9 of us here. So each one of us shares one takeaway that will be actual manana happening.
Yeah, Hariom. Me today's takeaway, anything in moderation is good. Anything in extreme, especially when it's in terms of tapas, ahar, or rituals which we are performing. Anything in excess is either rajasic or tamasic. Everything in moderation is sattvic.
We should be aware of the food so that we are in the sattvic, more towards the sattvic state. Whenever we shift towards the rajasic, we should, with awareness, we can always come back to the sattvic.
So though food has its bearing on on the mind and the way we think, we cannot be rest assured that it is only the food that will help. The way you think, the way your intention and the motives behind our actions, whether it is a ritual, whether it is charity, whether it is uh, so in any of these dealings, our effort should be towards purifying it to make it more and more sattvic. Because a person may be eating vegetarian food, but his inner disposition might not be uh, sattvic. So, having this general awareness is important. And like Belaji rightly mentioned, moderation is important. Because Ayurveda says all these are required. All these tastes, different tastes, navarasas you will have to eat. But ati, too much of anything. Ati ukshna, ati tu, ati lavana, ati amla. And if we can be aware of at least cutting out tamasic food, yata yamam, gatarasam, puti paryushitam chayat, day old, you know, at least I would want to introduce this. I know one of my friends, she's, she does not keep anything overnight. Anything that is cooked, for instance, she invites people over, anything that is left over after feeding everyone, she packs it off and hands it over to the security. Nothing goes back to the fridge. And I think that's such a wonderful discipline, that you eat fresh, you cook fresh the next day. That way we will be cutting out the tamasika food at least.
Hariom, yeah, the food aspect is very beautifully explained. Inadequately cooked also, and so there again, here I believe it is emphasized how important it is to eat the natural form of the food. And rotten and stale food I mean, they have to be avoided.
Mhm.
More fermented also have to be avoided. And I remembered in the previous chapters one Swamiji's friend who used to keep the yogurt for so long and it used to stink.
Yeah, sometimes they become unconscious, subconscious habits. We'll have to stop and then look and refine how we are doing what we're doing. Yeah, so we'll stop here. We have 5 minutes left. I want to play Maya Panchakam today. We'll listen to the Maya Panchakam after the Shanti part, and then um, unless anybody else wants to share anything, 2 minutes you can share. लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ तत्सत् श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु
निरुपमनित्यनिरंशकेऽप्यखण्डे मयि चिति सर्वविकल्पनादिशून्ये घटयति जगदीश जीवभेदम् त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया श्रुतिशतनिगमान्तशोधकानपि अहह धनादिनिदर्शनेन सद्यः कलुषयति चतुष्पदाद्यभिन्ना न घटितघटना पडीयसी माया सुखचिदखण्डविबोधमद्वितीयम् वियदनलादिविनिर्मिक्ते नियोज्य भ्रमयति भवसागरे नितान्तम् त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया अपगतगुणवर्णजातिभेदे सुखचितिविप्रविडाद्यहङ्कृतिं च स्फुटयति सुतदारकेहमोहम् त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया विधिहरिहरविभेदमप्यखण्डे बत विरचय्य बुधानपि प्रकामम् भ्रमयति हरिहरविभेदभावान् घटितघटना पडीयसी माया त्वघटितघटना पडीयसी